It's happening, folks, in Hong Kong. People are wiping out the store shelves. Coronavirus, Hong Kongers in panic buying of rice, toilet paper, and essentials as government stays mum on impending quarantine measures. Not good. Anxious Hong Kongers scrambled on Thursday to stock up on essentials over fears that border restrictions to contain the coronavirus would choke off supplies, while the government provided scant details on the mandatory quarantine taking effect in less than 36 hours on arrivals from mainland China. As long queues formed at shops all over the city for a second straight day, and people jostled to grab toilet paper and tissue paper, as well as rice and perishables. Food suppliers sought to assure the public that there was no need for hoarding. There is absolutely no need to panic buy. We have always worked to ensure a stable supply of food, and all these years, throughout all sorts of big events, we have never had a shortage. Thomas Ning Weng Yang, chairman of the Hong Kong Food Council, told a press conference. The fears fed by online rumors mounted when the government announced on Wednesday it would impose a 14-day quarantine on anyone entering from mainland China, sparking concerns that supplies would be held up. But while the government said it would reveal more on the quarantine measures on Thursday, the day ended with no information forthcoming, as sources told the Post that Chief Executive Carrie Lam Ching Nak was still locked in meetings over facilities and details on implementation. Even as they gave assurances, representatives of rice, pork, egg, seafood, poultry, and fruit and vegetable merchants urged the government to exempt cross-border truck drivers from the 14-day quarantine set to kick in on Saturday to avert any delays in supplies reaching the city. Separately, amid a long week strike by public hospital workers now into its fourth day, the hospital authorities said about 5,000 employees, including some 220 doctors and 3,000 nurses, had not reported for duty. Empty shelves. They're almost bare. Depending on what you're looking for, it may already be gone. A meeting between the authority and representatives from strike organizers, the Hospital Authority Employees Alliance, ended in mixed results as both sides gave different accounts of the talks. By Thursday, more than 28,200 people had been diagnosed with the virus worldwide, mostly on the mainland, with a death toll at more than 560, which we know now is more in the 800 range. Locally, there were 3 more cases of infection, raising the total to 24. A leading microbiologist in Hong Kong declared the city to be in the throes of a community outbreak. One case was a 55-year-old Hong Kong woman, the wife of a man confirmed as infected a day earlier. Dr. Shang, head of the Communicable Diseases branch of the Center for Health Protection, told a press conference. The infected people were in Japan between January 28th and February 1st. The other 2 cases did not travel in the last 14 days before they fell ill. One is a 65-year-old woman admitted to Prince of Wales Hospital in Shenzhen in serious condition. A resident of Sheikh Mun Estate in the district, she had underlying illnesses and developed fever and cough on January 28th. She visited a private doctor on January 29 and February 1st and was sent to a hospital on February 5th. How many people did this lady come in contact at that doctor's office? How many people were sitting in the waiting room with her? This is how it's spreading, folks. The other case is a 63-year-old woman who started to cough on January 26th and visited a private doctor on February 5th. When she was referred to Pamela Yu Eastern Hospital in Chai Wan, She was reported to be in a stable condition. At the daily briefing, Chong said there was at least 6 family clusters of infected patients. That means that transmission of the virus within a family is very high, she added. Chong said 6 of the confirmed cases were possibly infected locally. The ratio is getting higher. We are worried the local spread will get more serious, she said. Earlier in the day, Professor Yuan of the University of Hong Kong noted that nearly a third of the cases had no travel related to the coronavirus. The local transmission chain has begun, and we do nothing to contain it. Hong Kong will become like some mainland city that has suffered lots of cases, he warned. Yun added that all measures must be taken to break the chain of a local spread, noting that transmission of the virus had proved to be very efficient, similar to seasonal flu. Many people blamed me earlier for exaggerating the situation previously, but what I said was based on scientific facts, he said. There he is, trying to tell it like it is. People just wouldn't listen. Once we have a bigger outbreak, even if you do not close the border, the city will be isolated by others. It would be too late then. While no word came from the government, Executive Councilor Lam Chien-chiu said authorities were thinking of asking returning Hong Kongers to self-quarantine at home. He also said non-locals, including mainlanders, could be quarantined in their own hotel rooms or government facilities. People, this is not a quarantine. You can't send people home. They're going to pass how many people on the way? What are they going to ride in? Are they going to walk down the street? How are they going to get to the hotel? How are they going to get to the government facility or their home? We can accept if they were staying in hotels, and hotel employees can even help us to see if they obey the quarantine order, Lam said. They can call police if the visitors run away. Yeah, and that's a real possibility. People are getting scared. But the government advisor admitted there might be adequate quarantine facilities, might not be adequate quarantine facilities, But the government advisor admitted there might not be adequate quarantine facilities, adding officials were rushing to the new locations such as hotels or holiday camps. There it is. Panic buying in Hong Kong amid coronavirus outbreak. I wonder what was on those shelves. Water, bread, rice. What was on those shelves? It's gone now. A source familiar with the government's position said mainland travelers would have to bear the cost of extending their hotel stay for the full 2 weeks. For those mainlanders who haven't booked hotel rooms in Hong Kong, the government will put them in quarantine centers, he said, adding they would not be charged for that stay, but would have to foot the bill for medical expenses according to the existing policy. While the virus threat had triggered panic across most of Hong Kong for surgical masks, the anxiety extended midweek to the other items being cleared from supermarket shelves. But Kenneth Chan Kinyan, chairman of the Rice Merchants Association of Hong Kong, said rice was in ample supply, adding that 90% of it came from Thailand and Vietnam. The supply of rice is regulated by the government, and we will still have 13,000 tons in storage, which are yet to be used, he said. The trader said food supply would be completely cut off if truck drivers were also put under the 14-day quarantine, warning there would not be enough replacement manpower. But a source told Post that cross-border truck drivers would be exempt precisely to quarantine the supply of food and other goods to the city. But a source told the Post that cross-border truck drivers would be exempted precisely to guarantee the supply of food and other goods to the city. People, does that make any sense to you? that someone would be exempted from the quarantine so they could drive a truck of food into the city. There's everybody with their mask on. I hope they're changing them every 4 hours so they're not going to make themselves sick from something else. It's groundless to say that food will run into short supply in Hong Kong after the implementation of the new measures, he said. Food Council Chairman Ning said traders were more than happy to comply with increased measures to prevent contagion, such as temperature checks for drivers at customs and additional disinfection of truck wheels and containers. While these measures would delay checks by about 15 minutes, we would make sure consumers do not bear that cost, he said. President of the Pork Traders General Association of Hong Kong similarly vowed to ensure a stable supply of the meat. The meat that has been handled by who? Who has been handling that meat? The amount of seafood stocks from Guangdong province had dropped as the Chinese government mandated that fishermen returning to work after the Lunar New Year holiday self-quarantine for 14 days. The order would be effective until February 9th. He said Li Choihua, chairman of the Hong Kong Chamber of Seafood Merchants. But we have more than enough supply from Southeast Asia where seafood is cheaper. Lawmaker Peter Kafai, who represents the wholesale and retail sectors, said, while wholesale prices have not increased, we hope individual retailers will keep their prices reasonable. He urged people not to store food for too long, as even items such as rice could go bad. I don't think that's going to be a problem. But those lining up were not persuaded, with many joining queues not knowing what they were for. Apart from rice and paper, sanitary and baby napkins were also being snapped up, along with condoms. Hong Kong to quarantine all mainland China visitors. That's all the ones that they see coming in. Throughout this outbreak, the government has had its own echo chamber rather than in communication with the people, Yip said. He called for a dedicated television channel to provide information about the coronavirus and debunk rumors. Among these left anxious was clerk Henry Yule, 29. He was a park and shop international in somewhere, Sai Ying Pun, on a failed mission to buy toilet paper to add to the 2 rolls he had left at home. Excuse me. He had gone to 4 other stores before that. I feel helpless, he said. Wow, I need something to drink. Wow, he said, hugging a box of instant noodles. Housewives have incredible shopping power. Well, amen to that, brother. In the medical sector, the hospital authority's chief manager of cluster performance, Dr. Yang Ai-Chiang Zingfu, thanked some strikers who came back to help out at a neonatal unit for a limited period following appeals. On Thursday's talks with the strike organizer, Hospital Authority Director Tony Kongpeng Singh described the vibe as good, adding that both sides share some similar goals. But Hospital Authority Employees Alliance chairwoman Winnie Yu Yang Ming expressed her utter disappointment, saying Koh's side had beat around the bush with no solid details on how equipment could be replaced in the face of a shortage. Even a promise as simple as no retaliation against the strikes could have been made, she said, adding that both sides would meet again on Friday. It's no agreement is reached, Young said. Members would vote again after Friday on whether to continue to take action. People, keep prayed up. Are you kidding me?